making more money. And that is all we have. That's who bewitched us in Africa. But that is a topic for another day. I know Mo Ibrahim, myself personally, I've had very dangerous discussions and the tough ones, even to the extent of exchanging blows. I have no regrets for that. And I asked him how he has used Africa to gain the resources, and yet he condemns it every day. He couldn't tell me and answer me. Chisano had to separate us. But that is a topic for another day. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon in Nairobi, Kenya. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Doc. A very good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to our the speakers that have joined us today.
Thank you very much, Miriam. So, Sean Wesonga, good afternoon in Nairobi, Kenya.
Very good afternoon to you, Dr. Masanga David, in our headquarters in London. Good afternoon to my colleague Miriam Ogutu and all the participants who have joined this conversation this particular Sunday afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Radio Punchline Africa. Can I hear your voice? Where are you?
Radio Punchline is having a troubles joining, but they're listening.
Okay, then let me play the national anthem, which I have from this end. Thank you very much, Miriam, for notifying me on that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our African national anthem that always plays for us before we start anything to do with discussion on African continent. And we shall be playing the number right now so that we can listen, and as we wait for more people. This is a very emotive topic today, and we want to be sober-minded. But let's listen to our Matanga's Twitter space together with Punchline Africa Television National Anthem. Thank you. who have gathered here today, the 30th of April, 2023, the year of our Lord. It is a great day in Africa in the sense that we have both events, bad ones and ones, then good ones. Where is the light in the last 2 weeks? From 15th of April up to today, 15 days past, Sudan has been bleeding. The African Union is at crossroads with an open mouth. It does not have answers for what is happening in Sudan. It is very sad, therefore, as we sit here, one of our countries on the African continent is going towards a civil war. The signs are very clear. It baffles me as an African for a native of Sudan to hold a big conference in a safety in Nairobi and fail to discuss, to openly first bring the agenda of Sudan first. We can't discuss AU, we can't discuss transparency, we can't discuss governance. And I agree, I want to make my statement very clear with President William Samoei Ruto on a statement that he made about African heads of state being called by one man in United States to go and sit there, men, real men. I said it a long time, Mr. President. Thank you very much for allowing me, for saying what I have said long time. I am happy that somewhere in Africa, someone listening. And a mission for Africa, Your Excellency, will never end, will never stop. I will continue with it until my last iota and until I go to the grave. How can 54 men and a woman walk into United States summoned like children to come and listen to useless values that don't give Africa anything but only directions of conflicts? Where have we lost our mind? Who cast us? Who bewitched us? Is this not what we have today? We have more churches in the mosques than factories and industries. And then we now have gone further to eat our own youth, our own unemployed youth. We are eating them. We are eating them. We are eating them because they are vulnerable. They have nothing to do. Instead of creating factories, industries for the younger generation to go and start work, we have created such as mosques. There are more in Africa than the churches in Africa and where the religion came from. Who cast this continent? Who bewitched this continent? Today is a hard talk. If you don't like Matanga, go and hang. Look for the transformer and charge yourself. I'm not a preacher. Sorry, Miriam. I'm not a preacher. I am just a truth teller saying it as it is. Africa, we are weak. The 4 countries. I agree with President Ruto 100%. We can't even have an army that can solve We have an African Union chairperson who goes to Ukraine frontline. Ukraine frontline. You see him with President Sally, of Senegal. They are in Ukraine. They have never visited Eritrea. They have never visited Somalia. They have never visited the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the guns are hammering every night, every day. Are we bewitched? We bewitched. Ladies and gentlemen, a few days ago, I was giving a speech on Monday in London School of Economics, SOAS and London Metropolitan University, in Southwest London, and to the world. I was asked a very important question, which I answered very carefully by my professors. Some of them were sitting in the audience. What did you take on Africa, which others have failed to deliver? I will answer that question today. Thank you very much. Coming back to the topic, the rules are very clear. We don't insult each other on this platform. We will reinforce the rules. Media will talk, will give who wants to speak. She will be the timekeeper. When you hear my bell ringing, give thanks and the way allow a person to explain his point. And the princess, again, your network is not very good. It is cutting you off. We wanted to know what your views are. Miriam has already brought you in, but you have cut yourself off. So look for a better network. And this, the hunter philosophy, we have now sent you to accept to be one of our speakers. Thank you very much. Why are there more churches and mosques in Africa than the industries and the factories and the roads? We have more churches mushrooming. Miriam, give us a background. You are better in giving that background to the audience. Then I can summarize it and debate and open up the debate for discussion. Thank you very much, audience. Thank you.
All right, Doc, thank you so much for that opening. Now, Christianity and Islam are the most practiced religions in Africa. Christian adherents are prevalent below the Sahara, while North Africa is predominantly Muslim. In 2020, Christians accounted for about 60% of the sub-Saharan Africa population, followed by Muslims, with a share of roughly about 30%, but that has gone up. Religion in Africa is multifaceted and has been a major influence on art, culture, and philosophy. And today, the continent's various populations and individuals are mostly adherents of Christianity and Islam, and to a lesser extent, several traditional African religions. And And as we know right now, and how things have been playing out, is that religion has a grip on Africa that is in a very toxic fashion. For it has now not only led to blind obedience, but has also led to the erasure of what is authentic to Africa. According to an updated data for 2021, there are nearly 685 million Christians in Africa, with 760 million expected by 2025. Yes, so just a bit of a background there on the two major religions that we're having in the continent, the Islam and Christianity. Doc, back to you.
Thank you very much, Miriam, in the studios. Thank you very much. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you on this show. And I want to welcome you on this space. Feel free to express your views, your experiences with Christianity, your experiences with Islam. How far have you gone? Are there cults in these organizations? We have fundamentalism, people coming in with fanatic ideas in both religions, in Islam and in Christianity. Are we on the same wavelength? Like the wavelength that Christian have accepted, Muhammad was accepted by Muslims, Jesus was accepted by Christians. He died 2,000 years ago. Still, we know he stood up for all rights while on earth. He opposed people who were collecting taxes unfairly. He resurrected the dead. He marched on the temple of Jerusalem. We have the 10 commandments. We Christians have 10 commandments. How many people on this forum can read the 10 commandments and finish all of them without Googling? Have we gone wrong? Where did we go wrong? What killed us? What has destroyed us? What has morality? Where has it gone? To the extent, I'll leave this whole thing, Kenyans, Miriam, for you to struggle it out. As Kenyans, I will be dealing mainly with my churches in my country called Uganda. And I will be giving examples on my country, on other African countries like Nigeria. But for the sake of what is the ongoing cases in Kenya, where the cases are in court, we are not going to give it too much examples and bring out some things that might be very detrimental to the suspects. We want to leave the judges to make a comprehensive ruling, and so that it is discussed. But let's look elsewhere. Let's look in Uganda, for example, in Kanungu. A certain monster rose up and told the people that if you burn, and if you're in a house, close the windows, burn, you will reach heaven. He killed over 1,000 people in Uganda, in the western part, near President Museveni's home, in Kanungu, in the Rukungiri district, formerly Rukungiri. I don't know how many districts they have divided them today. That monster, that church, that cult, where people have, everywhere you go, everybody, somewhere in Africa, in Nigeria, especially in Nigeria. And I would like to hear Nigerians who are on this platform to come up, because your preachers are the ones who have exported even this type of mentality everywhere in East Africa. There are so many Nigerian churches in East Africa. What do we gain out of this? Are we having a problem? We don't stop anybody moving in Africa. But Nigeria has so many churches, and yet they kill each other every day. Do these churches teach people to be humble? Do these churches teach morality? Or these churches teach violence? Nigeria has mosques, the whole of northern part of Nigeria, where Buhari comes from, in all those parts, in Kano, the East State, and everybody, Madiguri. There is a cult, a terrorist cult, calling itself Boko Haram. They feel that the religion they have in the mosque is not sufficient. And therefore they have gone out to kill people, to abduct people, to maim people. We have several examples across Africa where pastors are acting very badly. They ask women to remove their underwears. What the hell is this? What has got an underwear to do with you ask women in a congregation in front of people that you remove your underwear? What is it that you are looking in the underwear that cannot be done through prayer quietly? Some people beat Miriam, they beat churchgoers with sticks. These are not fabrication, it's not fiction. You go to church and you are beaten with a big stick, and then you are pushed to fall on the floor for demons to go. Hallelujah. Are these demons surely? Why? If this guy who's telling you that if you pray more, you are going to have money next week in a bank account, then in the same service, he said the PIN number, pay bill number, don't forget. Don't forget the pay bill number if you want to send something. That not if you want, send. This is the language the churches use in Uganda and other places. Send it money on this pay bill number. So if you are telling me you are praying for me to get money, why don't you pray for this church to have money so that the people who go there don't end up removing the pocket money for transport for their children to school, and then they pay you? Ladies and gentlemen, those are some of the things that I want to discuss this afternoon. The church in Uganda, the role of the church when I grew up was to educate, to supplement what the government of the day was doing. The role of the church was to make sure that children are well behaved, they go to school. But do the churches these days do the same? Our churches doing the same? The answer is no. The churches in Africa have gone a different direction. I have been an assistant warden for my church for now 33 years. And in this church, my role is to see that the building is okay. There's no leakage. There is no bomb that has been planted in churches. There is no shortage of seats. The money that they collect willingly announce the next program when the prophet calls you to go in front to announce the next program. This is exactly the role of what we should do, but we have a problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, I now open this debate, and I will start with Mr. the Speaker, the Hunter philosophy. Then I come to nomadic man. Nomadic man, you have written it such that it is together. It's a nomadic man. I can see you have a lot of camels. I don't know whether they come from the desert of Sahara. So let's start with number one. The philosopher guy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, our senior. Thank you very much, our mentor. Thank you very much, our guide for this space. I thank all the members who have just joined us. And I will go straight. That a cult is a psychological manipulation. It is a system of religious veneration and devotion which is directed towards a particular figure or an object. Now, we have seen from 1970 and 1980, when the message of prosperity started, this is where we went wrong. Believing in the gospel of prosperity and not the gospel of salvation as enshrined in the 10 commandments which were given at Mount Sinai. And this is the genesis of cults in the whole world, which now has colonized the minds of Africans, poor Africans, who are believing that that religion, which has come in a form of a gospel, will transform them and give them solutions from the challenges, myriad challenges they are undergoing. Now, these beliefs of cults, where a person now thinks to create money first, have been regarded by very many people, and they are now becoming so dangerous in Africa and especially in Kenya. Now, a cult is a social movement which gradually, as it grows by people believing in the doctrine, false doctrines, through psychological manipulation, becomes a big movement, and thus goes to the authorities in Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, everywhere, to get accreditation. Now, these religious, purported religious organizations have grown fastly in Kenya. In every corner of a small town, in every corner of a small village, you will hear people praising God, but behind it is something different which is being done, because the people have been manipulated in their minds and believing in something which does not exist, a doctrine which is not anchored in the beliefs, in the fundamental norms and values of the theological history of creation, of the existence of humanity. Now, a cult, therefore, as a belief, is a system that has answers to all life's questions. It is normal to understand in a society that there can never lack food, there can never lack money, there can never lack diseases, there can never lack quarrel, there can never lack all sorts of challenges within a community, a society, or a family. But these cults, people have gone down thinking how best to capture the minds of human beings, to create self-glorification, to create power in themselves, and thereby teaching false doctrines that our senior, Dr. Masanga, has mentioned. People being beaten in the church. Yes, the Lord whipped people in the church, but we have been transcended from the last theological history, and we live in the New Testament, where we believe in Jesus Christ dying in the cross of Calvary and believing in him and walking the righteous ways. And God says he has blessed the work of our hands. People have been put false doctrine through being beaten so that the spirits can be removed. People have gone to supernatural inclinations to get power so that they can lie to the people who they have psychologically manipulated into believing them that their problems will be solved, not salvation. And so the gospel of salvation died long time when this message of the message of prosperity came in Kenya. People want to make money. It is unbelievable that quite a number of pastors who preach, these people who preach and call them pastors, who preach about security and protection from the Lord, because he is our strong tower, as the word professes, that we will not lack. He will give us the protection. Unfortunately, if you look all these pastors, I'm sorry to mention, look at the Bishop Owori. He's surrounded with uh, uh, senior men with weapons. Look at Reverend Natasha. She is surrounded by security men with weapons. Now, why can't these people believe, portray the image of righteousness in God, of Jesus Christ, that our protection, our security is in Jesus Christ when we believe in him? So they preach something else, and they show, and they do something else. And finally, I want to say, now, when these members have become so numerous, then you find they require a registration to authenticate them. It is not rocket science to understand that all these church doctrines in Kenya are registered by a government through the department or through an office of the registrar of societies, which gives them these certificates. Now, I strongly want to blame our Kenyan government for being corrupt all through by not identifying through ministers of the gospel, by knowing, are you really an ordained reverend from a recognized institution? What are the fundamental values and knowledge, skills that you have acquired so that you can take our people through religion? Now, in Kenya, then, I want to send a strong message that we need to repeal the freedom of worship and religion in Kenya. And that is the only way we can be able to redeem our people. The power of our government is to protect the lives of our citizens. And so the false doctrines of Pastor Kanyaris, of the Mackenzies, of all the reverends who are calling themselves the people who are seen Jesus, should be controlled by the authorities in our country, Kenya. And number two, that it is not rocket science to understand that these cults emanate from sheer enthusiasm. Some people will want to exploit what is done in darkness, and they get the experience to come and do it practically to our people. It is sad to realize that in more than very many years, a person has been digging graves, subjecting our people into torture through fasting, wherein fasting is supposed to be regulated. We have different religions over the world, and the talk of the Muslim. The Muslim carry out what we call fasting, and it is regulated. And so I also want to condemn our people for being blindfolded into not believing what the word of the Lord says. It is not that hard for a man to take a Bible and read gradually seek the guidance of the power of the Holy Spirit to understand the ways of Jesus Christ and of God. But because of poverty, because of wrong systems in African countries, because of those wrong systems which have created now lack, poverty, diseases, lack of education, ignorance across Africa, they have pushed our people into believing very mediocre doctrines which are taking away their lives. It is sad. Even our political leaders in our country have gone to seek magic so that they can get to the power they want. It is not rocket science that today I'm writing a petition to court to seek an interpretation of one of my governors we voted in 2022 August, who took our people through a cult where we have the photos, where we have testimonies. And so our leaders, African leaders across, and I want to say that most of them believe in dark forces, they believe in magic, a good number of them. And this is why the entire process is culminating into everybody wanting to create money by believing in those powers and colonizing the mind of our people into believing in them. I was on another forum yesterday. As I wind up, I made this presentation that most of these people, because they believe in starting a church, you colonize somebody's mind and make him or her believe in you. And especially our young people, especially our women, our ladies in Kenya and in Africa are vulnerable because they want to get rich quick, because they have myriad of challenges, and believing that now this person is the Jesus who has come to help me get my problem solved. So I want to say that also, that our leaders have facilitated the process of awkward, dark forces, mediocre, and the evil cults to grow, to be established in Kenya, to grow, to expand, and continue thriving, as now people think that going to church and fasting without eating, your problems will be solved. And then I was saying that then there are people who have come up to give testimonies because of what has happened in Kenya, in Mombasa, that these pastors go seek imaginary, um, conventional, dark power from supernatural beings, which they are initiated. If they want to remove an object from a person, and so that this pastor can be called powerful, he must undergo a cult, which he believes in, so that he can be able to get that power. And when he does this in the church ministry, now the people believe in him. But what is it? It is not the power of the Lord. It is the dark forces which are acting. And what is the return on investment? Any given venture which a person starts, you'll always want to put funding and get the profit, expand your business. These people who have been involved in cultism, dark magic, black magic, disguising as bishops, reverends, and pastors, have to return the investment because they have been given a loan, and this loan must be paid. And the repayment is the blood of the people they are preaching into, they are removing the forces from. And the return on investment is death. It is not very, it's not that hard to listen from the voices on the testimonies from the Shakahola massacre or genocide, because they have said that in the dark, during the night, people will come and take organs. So some of the members, loved ones who died and have been rescued, have given a testimony saying, our members lack the following organs. There is no tongue, there is no private parts. Where are these organs going? And so it is a return on investment to where they got the magic from. And so, thirdly, after blaming the government for not regulating the freedom of worship and religion in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Africa as a whole, because they are mandated to protect the lives of her citizens from any other calamity. False religion, attacks from other communities, cattle rustling, among many other fundamental powers that are granted to governments to protect the lives of our citizens. I also blame ourselves as human beings for quickly being manipulated into believing unrealism. And thirdly, and finally, I want to blame the pastors, that to them who have been called to service, proclaiming the gospel of Jesus Christ, money and power does not come. And Jesus in the temple says, this woman who was given a one coin is the richest. After very many men, great men, selling their land and property and bringing billions of money to the temple to give it to the Lord. And so these pastors should be arrested who teach false doctrines to our people. Because if we don't exist in Kenya, there will be no Kenya. If we don't exist in Africa, there will be no Africa. And thus, to say, the recent, which is almost coming to Africa, is a video that I saw yesterday where somebody in the US has started a big inn, a building which is called the Red Life Inn, where he has placed all sorts of items, tools, which are used for suicide. And that it is being advertised in America that if you want to kill yourself, this is where the Red Life Inn, you enter, pay $39 and kill yourself, hang yourself, shoot yourself, exposing all those tools which carry off the lives of people. Such which will come into Africa, and somebody will make money out of it, because Africans are more vulnerable because of the challenges they have. And so somebody will make a kill out of establishing the same. Somebody will say, life is hard, let me go pay 10,000, I kill myself. I want to say, I had given very serious and very intimate love to a section of pastors like Pastor Nganga, who started very well. But unfortunately, in the later years, he changed. Where on earth are people slapped so that they can be saved? Where on earth do people get naked in church so that they can be saved? These false doctrines are is a manipulation of our people so that those who have started can continue propagating evil. Thank you very much for the time that you've given me and the opportunity.
Thank you very much, my great friend Humphrey. Thank you very much for the insight, a detailed analysis, a detailed, you've done it. You have raised the points that you followed all my points that I had. Thank you. You brought out what I had, because that is exactly the cardinal you talked about a supervision by the state. Is the state. We have new machines, suicide machines, that are advertised by Americans. Someone in America last night just picked a gun. He had a quarrel with a wife. He went and shot 6 people. All of them. One of them was dying, covering this one of the children, his own children, covering them. So we have the external forces, the darker forces. We have diverted ourselves from the original doctrine. The doctrine of the times when Dr. Matsanga went to church in 1956. He was praying, was being, baptized. I didn't know. My mother and the father baptized me, poured water. What I felt was water maybe I couldn't even feel because I was very young. I was about 3 months old in January 1956. But I grew up later on in 1961. I was now confirmed in the Anglican Church. I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I will never go to a church where is music guitar, where is a disco. Some of the churches in Africa, my brother, you brought something very interesting. Some of the churches have even a disco. You see the pastor is wriggling in front of the congregation. A lady pastor, bishop, is dancing as if this is now more or less a nightclub. There is something wrong that we must condemn. We don't stop people from dancing, from making merry. Yes, we have hymns in the Anglican Church. I sing my hymns. My favorite hymns is one of the hymns I like in the Anglican Church is that hymn that it's until we meet again. Dr. Matsanga does not cry. Dr. Matsanga does not cry when he goes for a burial. But Dr. Matsanga cries. I start crying when that song, that hymn, when the reverend said, the soil goes to soil. In our Uganda, Lukwago, you are listening, Enfufu kumfufu. Enfufu kumfufu, meaning the soil, you were made in the soil, you go back to the soil. And then he said, until we meet again, that song, the hymn, the Anglicans know that song. And Miriam is an Anglican, also she will know the song, maybe she can practice a bit of the verses. That is the only song that makes me excited. And that in the Bible, in the hymn book. And another song that makes me happy is that there is nobody tewali munsi muno omulongofu songa tewaliba mungulu. There is nobody in this earth who is not a sinner. All of us are sinners until we reach the kingdom of God. That song is very good. Lukwago, when you and other people, Oite, I can see Anita, I can see many Ugandans here who know that song. Very interesting song. So the problem here in Africa, why do we have mosques? More mosques than and the churches than industries. Why is it that these pastors, when they go to America to borrow this money, to ask for this money, why don't they ask for money to build industries? Why do you can build, ask also, as you build a factory, you can as well build, as you build a church, you can also make a factory so that the people go and work and they get some payment. You have brought it very ably. Humphrey, thank you very much. My keynote speaker, good afternoon, thank you. And we proceed. Churches in Africa. There are more churches and mosques in Africa than industries and factories. Why? Let me bring in more nomadic man. Then Wesonga be on standby. Then BK be on standby, in that order. We move on. Anybody who wants to speak, this session will be not a long session. So don't wait, Lukwago. Put up the name, put up your hand, or you signal, you give us your experience of Uganda and other places. Because the show will be so short today. It will not be as usual. So don't wait until I cut. So nomadic man, you have the microphone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Matanga. I appreciate you for having me and for giving me the opportunity. I'm a big fan of your space. I always come to your space. Every time I come to your space, I learn new things. In my heart, I feel like you speak about the things that matters the most and our people don't actually speak about. I'm from Somalia. I'm from the States, but I'm currently in Ethiopia. And I have experienced a few things when I was here. In less than a kilometer, I am a Muslim and I love my religion and I respect every other religion. But one thing I realized was in 1 kilometer, less than a population of maybe 20,000, there's like maybe 20 mosques. When one mosque is making the adhan, the prayer for people, for people to come to the mosques, when one is playing, the other one will play, the other one will play. You can't even hear one mosque clearly. They're playing one like next to each other. You can hear all of them at the same time. So they're investing so much on mosques, which is great. But wouldn't it be better if they all invested in one huge mosque? You know what I mean? That's one thing I realized when I was here now in Ethiopia and also in Somalia. I want to say one thing. People need to understand God is in our hearts. If you're in your living room, if you are driving, if you are doing a farming, anywhere you go, God is with you. You do not have to go to somebody which you might think might know more. And if you go to them, that's fine. But you have to understand they do not have the answers. Only God have the answers. You have to believe that all success and all wealth and all health comes only from God. And I feel like the people that represent our religions, if it's Christianity or Muslim or other religions, most of our people are not qualified. Most of them do not have a classification of what they are teaching. And I think we need to work more on making the people live a better life. When somebody is barely surviving in life, and then we are investing so much on mosques and churches, which is good, but you have to save the humanity first, in my opinion. We are lacking more on how to save our people. Every mosque, everybody donates money, everybody pays money. When somebody comes and start collecting money, which is a good thing, you should always give some money. But where does that money go? It's a question I've been asking myself. Another thing I realize about religion is I love my Muslim religion, but one thing, the way we teach also, I have one question, a very big one. Most of us, we memorize the Quran, but we do not understand the definition of what we memorized. I think learning the language of the Quran while learning the Quran itself should go together. I realize most of the people that mentally can be brainwashed, it makes me very upset that we teach so much religion as a Somali person in our country, but yet we are the most, like we fight for religion, we kill each other for religion, and that upsets me. How does one learn about religion, invest so much about religion, but yet compete who is a better religious man or a religious woman? Religion should make people to care for others. Even if they are making mistakes, you shouldn't be the one to judge. That only God can judge. For someone to take someone's life saying what you did is haram or it's a sin, who are you to make those decisions, to make those steps to take someone's life? I think we should invest more on making people alive, waking them up mentally, psychologically. In Somalia, they say almost 60 or 70% everybody has a psychological problem because they suffered in some kind of explosion. Everybody has came across something. So investment, there was a mosque that was built in Mogadishu that was worth about, I believe, 15 to 20 million dollars. Imagine the city is not lacking a mosque, but the city is lacking clean water, electricity, roads, you name it. Imagine if that 20 million was invested in just agriculture, just wheat production agriculture. Just if the 20 million, imagine if they could be used to relocate the poor neighborhoods to a better neighborhood. We invest in things that we already have and already exist so many of them. So thank you for having me. I can speak about this for a long time, but I know a lot of people are waiting. I appreciate you. And we should save ourselves. We should advise each other like you are doing and many others, and how to make our people wake up. How can we make them learn about reality?
Yes, thank you very much. Nomadic.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much for that. And thank you for bringing out the question of Islam, especially in Somalia. 20 minutes away from each other, we have mosques. So when they start calling for prayers, you can't hear any. So why don't they make one mosque?
Time. But all of them,
yes,
you can hear one mosque is enough for almost a kilometer, but there's almost 10 mosques in 1 kilometer. I don't see the point. They can invest in one huge mosque where everybody can just listen to one adhan or one prayer calling, and then create a huge hall for everybody, that it can fit everybody. But every mosque is so small, it can only fit a few hundred people, and then they have to make another little mosque, So I feel like our investment is, we need management on everything. But thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. And also you brought out a very big element. And first I want to thank my brother Kennedy Wandera for honoring your presence here. Thank you very much, my brother. Let's keep talking about Africa. The other Africa is an African billionaire comes to host a meeting when his country is burning and doesn't even put a topic for his country, and then why were we cast? We were cast. Who cast us? Is it the same darker forces? It is very, very embarrassing. Very embarrassing. Me and there are people in the world that I want to tell everybody to know. The late Kofi Annan, that gentleman, Mo Ibrahim, I don't like them. I never liked them at all, and I have no. I don't hide my dislike for Mo Ibrahim. You have made money out of Africa. You have sold these companies, and you are telling people you are coming to Africa to insult Africans because you made money out of Africa. You see, you sold these companies made out of Africa, but your country is bleeding, and you come here laughing. Wait, you can't even go to anywhere. You can't hold a summit. But this time, I have agreed with His Excellency, President William Ruto. Thank you very much. I said it. 54 men and women, women and men gathered cold to go and sit before one man, a small man there. Eh? And you are just being lectured to, told that you go back and do this and do that and do that. If you don't do this, what the hell is going on in Africa? And I'm glad the AU chairperson was there smiling. He can't even tell how many countries in Africa have not paid their money for membership fee. What a shame. What a shame. Where did these people come from? Where did we get such a chairperson, Muhammad Faki? Why did Africa go wrong? Sudan is bleeding. Churches are killing people. People have given up. That's the life we are in. Daniel Wesonga, just pick the microphone, follow us, follow each other on this platform. Speak your mind. I'm waiting
Thank you so much.
For the experience from Uganda, the Ugandan experience of churches. I have a very bad experience. I've already told you that we lost 1,000 people. But these people, you don't know whether you have gone to hell or heaven. How do you know whether you have gone to hell or heaven? Sure. No, on a serious note, how do you know? Why should I go and starve myself? Why don't you can't? There are things that I can't do on earth. I can't gamble. I can't enter a casino. If you find Dr. Matsanga in a casino, please shout at me and shame me. I can't. But I have a friend, a doctor friend, who even gambles and gambles his phone and is listening now. Stop it, I've been telling you. I told you today I will talk about you, but I don't want to mention your name. You are a very bad man. You have children and you are gambling, and you even call me at night 3 a.m. that give me some money, I'll give you tomorrow. You are in a casino. What the hell? What have we come to? Is this Africa? What happened to us? Yes, Sean Wesonga. Sean Wesonga.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matsanga David. It is indeed a very, very interesting topic, and more here in Africa, in the African setting rather. And the guest speakers who have spoken before me have actually really exhausted that field. And I'll just go straight to the points that in Africa, religion has become a tool of radicalization into occultism, and also a tool for dogmatic principles to be actually impacted in the larger population. And you realize that in Africa, we don't really separate religionism and spirituality. What essentially I believe the people of Africa should focus on is the spiritualism. You realize that even before the coming of the European or the colonialists or the missionaries, we actually had our own forms of religion. And I truly do doubt whether we had cultism at that particular time. But people knew whatever they needed to do before their God. They did not give fellow men offerings or gifts, but they actually went to offer gifts to their own gods. And therefore, that is what separates spirituality and religionism. And you realize that these religion that has been brought by the missionaries or the colonialists has actually overtaken the African population. Just the same way we were given democracy. However, we want to practice democracy in its extremist form, in that we actually find ourselves in a scenario where we actually plunge into violence, and therefore Africans do not know how to do something with moderation. The thing here with the cultism that we are seeing across the African continent is just actually could actually be cured by having moderation and understanding. Number two, Dr. Matsanga, you realize that in Africa, the quickest way for you to become rich is to become a preacher. There's a man who once said, when you look even at the disciples of Jesus, you realize that Peter was a fisherman. You realize that John was a carpenter, for example. You realize that Bartholomew was a tax collector. But today we have churches where pastors do not do anything other than to depend on the offerings and the tithes that are given in church. If your pastor does not have any other source of income, that is not a pastor, that is a con man. And that is how it should be, because you cannot be just sitting there waiting for people to go work for you and bring to you money so that you eat and enrich yourself, you buy luxury cars, whereas even the Bible says, he who do not work should not eat. So therefore, Dr. Masanga, Africa has to defer upon these particular issues. Number three, when you look at the two religions in Africa, two major religions in Africa, that is Islam and Christianity, you realize that the occultism in Christianity actually has been aimed for the purposes of swindling the general public through offerings and tithes. And that is what has been happening here in Kenya, where you are told to go sell your things, the world is ending, and therefore bring your monies and your material wealth to the church, so that after that they tell you fast or maybe even kill yourself so that you go meet Jesus Christ. That is a very, very treacherous model that has been perfected by these preachers, because they know once they coerce you and inculcate this occultism into you, you will actually be able to sell your property. And once you sell your property and give it to them, they are now tell you to fast yourself to death or even kill yourself, so that you do not come back to them and request for your property, should you maybe come into realization that whatever you did was not the right thing. When I look also now on the other side of the religion, the Islam bit of it, you realize the Islam religion kind of has a buffer between maybe the sheikhs and the imams fleecing their congregants. But their kind of occultism or their kind of radicalization is based on jihad, where young men are brought into the mosque and they're told, if you go fight the jihad and you die in the battlefield, you're gonna become a martyr. You're gonna be you're gonna receive 72 virgins. You're gonna receive this amount of gold. You're gonna sit on the right side of Allah and all that. You realize that the same people who are telling these young men all these sweet stories are not on the front line fighting the jihad. So if you feel like, if I go to the jihad and I fight and I die in the battlefield, then I'm gonna inherit 72 virgins. Quite good. If you feel like, if I'm going to fight jihad, I'm going to inherit this amount of gold, quite a good thing. Then why wouldn't you also go for these good things you're telling me about? Just the same thing with the church again, also in the same perspective. They tell the Christians that you do not need the earthly treasures, whereas they ride in high-end cars, they live in palatial mansions, and they actually fly first class. And you realize most of these preachers, whenever they want to buy a new car, whenever they want to buy a private jet, they tell their congregants to contribute. But when a congregant wants to buy a new car or to buy a house, they tell them to pray. Why can't they also pray, so that they earn these things out of their own effort? So therefore, Dr. Masanga, I support the President of the Republic of Kenya that we need to regulate the institutions, our religious institutions, starting from mosques, starting from the temples, all the way to the synagogues, to churches, so that we have sanity. We need to get quality of what we enrich ourselves in terms of religion. Remember, there are only three things that men cannot be able to withstand sometimes on their own, no matter how much educated you are, no matter how rich, no matter how much well-informed you are. And that is politics, religion, and love. You realize those are the weak points where men can actually be easily deceived. And therefore, when we leave people in the religious pulpits to actually operate in some kind of impunity or maybe some kind of vacuum, we realize that they go beyond the Rubicon. They go beyond the law. And that is why today you realize that most of these churches that keep on mushrooming in every hood, they actually are perpetuated by individuals who just wake up one day and they tell the people that they have received a calling, and when they stand to do their preaching, they actually do not quote the Bible. Rather, it becomes a one-man show where the pastor is the rule and the law. He does not even sometimes consult the biblical doctrines on how things should be done. So therefore, Dr. Masanga, as I conclude my point, why is it that Africa has the highest number of churches without maybe an equal number of schools, hospitals, and industries? It is because the African people have been lied to over time and over again. The African people have been sent into some state of surrender through religion, whereby you are told that actually religion can actually be used to solve your economic problems. And one thing that I always tell people, Dr. Masanga, is that your economic problems cannot be solved by a spiritual frontier. And we realize even when the missionaries came, there's an infamous quote that says, we were told to close our eyes and we were given the Bible, whereas our land and minerals were being stolen. And that is the same trick, the same trick in the old book, where these preachers are telling the congregants to close their eyes and to submit their property, money, and wealth, so that they are able to go see Christ Jesus. And beneath the veneer, they actually steal from them. And therefore, to me, I see unregulated religion, religion and cultism as a way of fleecing the poor masses and being able to benefit by pretending to be a servant of God. Whereas, in the contrary, these are conmen, these are people who are out there to enrich themselves, and these are people who are out there to distort the truth of religion. Personally, I believe whoever the Muslims worship, who they call Allah, is still the same God we worship in church under Christianity. It is still the same God the Jewish people in synagogues worship. And therefore, you even realize that the African people also had they worshipped God, even though they had different names for their God. Only those who worship idols.
Wesonga, hold the fire there. Don't switch off. There is something as you were speaking that came in my mind. That all these churches, ladies and gentlemen, I have seen people's houses. I have seen the 10 Downing Street. I have gone to the palace, all the palace houses where the king and the queen used to be, now the King Charles in this country. But I've never found in this compound an undertaker system. What is this new thing where Songa you tell me? Where a bishop builds a mortuary? Well, I am now being very inquisitive as an international law student who studied international law. I'm looking at criminality which has been formed. Surely, Miriam, there's something very criminal here. You build a very good house on 800 kilometers, 800 acres. Then you build a mortuary. Wandera, do you build a mortuary in your place? It is even a very serious abomination in Ibugisu, in my country, in my county, where I was born. If they hear you have built a mortuary in your house, in your compound, nobody will come there. Because a mortuary, even a mortuary attendant, like a Mr. A grave digger like a Mr. Wachikoya, whom I brought from North London when he was one of the Kenyan presidential candidates. I am the one who went there and said, stop it, let's go. And then you become my bodyguard at my nightclub. I removed him from grave digging because it was not African. It was not African. In fact, Africans who dig graves like in UK, you rarely see them in public. Because once someone knows that you are digging a grave, so a human being in Africa builds very good house like that house that I've seen on television with Songa. You are still on the platform. I want you to tell me this. And he builds a mortuary inside. So what was the aim? What was the intention? Is that not a nailing point for the prosecution to nail you down when you tell a judge that you actually, while constructing this beautiful house out of the money of the same people that you want to kill, you also built a mortuary? Hello?
Exactly,
A
Dr.
mortuary for
Matsanga.
who? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, exactly, Dr. Matsanga. And that is why I strongly suspect that this is a long list of, a group of individuals who have come together with a well-scripted, way to fleece their congregants, and in the ultimate end, be able to actually end their lives. And that is why they can build a mortuary within their premises and not a hospital. Because whatever I believe is that men of God, be it in Islam, be it in the Jewish settings, the Judaism, be it in Christianity, are supposed to be merchants of hope and not merchants of gloom or maybe bad omen. And you realize a mortuary actually represents gloom and bad omen. So to me, I think this was a strategy which was brought to on the table in order to ensure that their victims will be able to be well taken care of. Once they die, they are able to be taken to the mortuary and ultimately get buried in some forest.
Let me ask another question, and I'm asking to the whole audience, those coming up, because Democratic Republic of Congo, BK, you are coming next. Then MAB, you are next. Then I can see the hustler. I think this is the hustler from Nairobi, Kenya.
Oh,
You are
okay.
coming.
Dr.
But
David, thank you,
let me
David.
ask.
I'm on a job, please.
Wait first. Wait. Let me ask you this question. And one day maybe you might help us one day over this. The bank that is authorizing, the surveyor that authorizes a mosque, a mortuary to be built only in a private home. There are laws that govern building of a mortuary. The banks that give loan, when they are assessing how much money, because most of these pastors have loans, don't the people in the bank notice something fishy? Because in Britain here, when you live in Surrey and you start asking, you want to do something in your compound, and your neighbor sees a lot of soil packed in your compound, he will call the council to come. There is a lot of soil in this man's compound. In fact, in UK, only to roast meat, where Songa and the rest, you are lucky people, you roast your meat. You even put smoke to go for everybody, especially you posh people who have posh houses and good cars, Wandera and so on. You roast meat and everybody will have smoke. In the United Kingdom, you have to tell the council that on Sunday, Dr. David Matsanga will be having a barbecue. And this barbecue could bring smoke, which could affect the area. Leave alone the smell, because the smell is acceptable. Someone will smell. But you can be even accused for the type of smell. But the smoke, to put all your timber and everything, that the smoke within your household, your compound, within about 5 minutes, the police, the council, everybody, environment, they will be on your doorsteps. Where have we gone wrong? How did these people obtain licenses to even construct a mortuary in their compounds? Thank you very much, Wesonga. Thank you. You hold on the fire, my speaker, Wesonga. Let me bring Democratic Republic of Congo also to tell us what goes on in DRC Congo. Because you people have different cultures. Some people even do things that we don't know. Mr. BK, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Masanga. No, I don't have no much more than in Congo. I'm not in the Congo right now. I'm in America. So I just want to say good morning, everybody, and to say, man, I like you. I want to talk about where there is more church and the mosquite, comment on appelle en français? My man, we have big problem. If we don't resolve that problem, it's gonna be big issue. Cause how they call it, Dr. Masan, can I speak
You can
in
speak.
Swahili, please?
Can you speak French or Swahili? I'll interpret
Swahili,
French.
I like Swahili.
Okay, speak Swahili, I'll interpret.
Okay.
Even French,
Niko na haraka sana.
you have
Niko na
simply,
haraka. Acha nijaribu.
You have simply said in French that Africa has
Oui,
got
moi je peux parler
very
en
many
français,
problems.
mais je peux parler en français, mais comme le temps est en train de courir, moi je suis au travail. J'ai comme 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Moi je ne peux pas beaucoup de minutes. I won't use Swahili.
Okay, thank you very much. You go ahead with Swahili.
Okay. Masanga, nilikuwa nataka kusema hivi. Kuna kitu wazungu wametuletea na sisi tukavikubali, na sisi tumevikubali. Ni wazazi ni ba grandpere wetu, ni basosho wetu, ora ni bale wazazi wa wazazi wetu wamevikubali, wakawaitikia. Alafu kubaitikia hivi wakasema hivi ndio hivi, lakini this generation we are the one who supposed to change. Kwa sababu nini? Mzungu hatakuwa analeta kila kitu yote, anatuambia hii ni saa zingine tunafaa tutumie akili. Unaangalia, okay, nyinyi mu believe you're gonna go in heaven is look like this. You see, zile mapicha zote, zile mamovie zote wametuonyesha wazungu ni za uongo. Ukweli iko kwa kitabu, imeandikwa kila mtu ataishi kwa jasho yake. Kutoka binadamu akosee, Adamu afanye ile makosa, Mungu amemwambia utakula kwa sababu umetoa jasho. Alafu kwa Afrika watu wengi wanataka kukula vitu na wajatoa jasho. Nasikia?
Now summarize. Let me summarize there before we get lost. In short, the speaker has just said the problems that were brought by the colonial masters, we inherited them.
That's the one who follow us until right now.
Okay. That I am now interpreting yours in English so that other people can hear. So you keep mute your phone first.
Mr. Masana, I'm gonna be okay.
Mute your phone, then I interpret that part. He has said all these problems that we have were brought by the colonial people who came with religion. But for us in Africa, why don't we ask questions before somebody tells you to go and kill yourself? Why haven't you killed yourself first and tested it first? So he's simply saying some people in Africa want quick things. That's why things are like this. So, brother, thank you very much on that one. I will bring you back later because we are running short of time. We have very few minutes left and we have so many people who want to speak on this subject. You have made your point very clear.
Masanga, Dr. Masanga.
Yes.
Let me put confusion. Most of our people for Africa, we don't know. There is some stuff we don't know. Okay, how can I say? We don't have access
We are
like for
ignorant on some things.
which these
Okay.
people they take. Masanga, uko na haraka na unataka kuniharakisha. Acha kwanza
Hapana,
niongee kitu nilikuwa
sababu leo ndugu
unataka
yangu
kuniharakisha.
iko na watu wengi. There are so many
Uona,
people
mimi
lining
mwenyewe
up to
niko na
speak.
dakika, mimi nimetoka kwa kazi saa hii, kwa sababu hiyo topic yako najua
Okay,
ni ya
sasa
muhimu.
unapatiwa dakika moja, maliza.
Okay, acha nimalize kwa hii. Sasa Dr. Masanga, unaona sasa kitu moja ya muhimu, uende ukawatoe wa Afrika kwa maindi zao, mzungu atawatengenezea nchi. Mimi ni mtu wa DRC. Unajua DRC ni nchi tajiri, tunangojea mpaka saa hii Belgium ndo atakuja kutusaidia kujenga Kongo, na wakati hawezi kubali Mkenya mwenye ako karibu na sisi anaweza tusaidia kujenga nchi. Hawezi kubali Muganda mwenye wanasema mpaka mzungu jambo, yani Sarkozy amesema ama nani Emmanuel Macron amesema, hiyo ndo jambo ambayo mimi najiuliza, yani hawa watu yani
Okay.
wanafikiria. Ngoja kwanza nimalize Dr. Unaona, sasa wakati kuna sisi wenyewe tuko na watu elfu na elfu banakaa Rwanda, wamekaa Uganda, wamekaa Kenya. Abo watu bakiprofite, bakiprofite richesse. Hiyo ndo shida, ama tunataka kutengeneza mambo.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I have got your point, and you are simply raising very good points that we have so many people who are qualified in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, in Congo, but we call other people from foreign countries to come and give us instructions on our own things, yet we don't call our African brothers. Exactly. Asante sana ndugu mupenzi. Let's move on. MAB, and then the hustler from Kenya, I believe. You are going to bring us very good news from Kenya. And just kill my curiosity. I am very curious. How do you build your good home, MAB, and put a mortuary? What is the use of a mortuary then?
Good afternoon, Dr. David. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, how do you build a mortuary? I think this goes to show, Dr. David, that when you have money, you can do whatever you want. I think that's where I will start. I will start with that kind of ignorant statement. But there's something I wanted to say, Dr. David, and I wanted to use an analogy of a knife. You know, when you consider a knife, it's a useful instrument or an object of harm. You know, it's a weapon. It's a matter of whose hand it's in. And
your network is.
Can you hear me, doctor?
Yeah, your network is disrupting, but we hear you a bit.
Okay, let me quickly change location, but I'll continue to speak. I wanted to start off by using an analogy of a knife, that it's either a weapon or a useful instrument. It's just a matter of whose hand it's in. And I feel like when it comes to spirituality or Christianity, it's the same relationship that we have in Africa. It's a matter of how it's used and who is using it. You know, when we consider the history of Christianity or the church with our continent, there's so much that we see where it's naivety, manipulation, symbols of power, and it's a useful instrument for control and uncivilizing a people. You know, when I look at the history, I'm from Zimbabwe, by the way. So when I look at some of the little things that I've seen of the church's history in Zimbabwe, when you look at all those old preachers that used to come when our forefathers were rulers on those lands, you see letters from the church written to the Queen describing the kind of people we are, what we do. You know, the church was very useful to spy on us as a people. It was a very useful instrument to bring business, European business, to Africa, whether they were pillaging us or looting us or whatever the case. The church was very useful. It was useful to present itself as a uniting force. It was useful to present itself as a relative force to how we practice as our spirituality as a people. And I think that's where the African has been gripped ever since. And they have never stopped parting with their treasures because they regard all of that as meaningless. Now, when you look at a modern day church, you know, I think I heard a couple of people talking about us being governed, you know, like the church is being governed and things like that. You know, if I use Methodist Church, Anglican, or the Catholic Church, these are institutes that are historic institutes and they've always had some kind of governance. There's always been an orderly way of doing things. And that's why I feel like when we talk about industry, this hasn't changed for the church, Dr. David. The church is still a business. It's a booming business. But now it's a matter of who is doing this business and why the CEO of these businesses tend to be the ones that continuously gain while the people at the bottom will work for free, because that's what happens with churches. People are working for free. They are working to fulfill one person's vision or purpose, and they feel like they have fulfilled their course in doing so. And I think most of the time when we look at this ill within the church, it always points a huge finger at the Pentecostal church, because the Pentecostal church is the one that comes with the fire, it comes with the miracles, it comes with those unexplainable, life-changing hopes. It's the dangling carrot at most times. And I say that because when I've interacted with the church in Zimbabwe, I remember at one point when I wanted to run a Christian program for the youth, I was expected to attend like a commissioning board of all the different churches within that community and explain why I wanted to do this, what I would do, and why it would impact them or how it would impact them. And at the time, my reasoning was, I'm just doing this youth reach out. And once I reach out to them, they'll want answers about God. You guys will be the ones that have to handle that, because I will be back on the plane back to England, you know. And, you know, so for me, it showed me that there were structures to how they practice their thing, how they divide the city, who's handling this part of the city, who's handling that part. And the unfortunate thing about it is that sometimes the people who are divided in that way, they don't necessarily know, and they don't necessarily look into why these things happen. And I feel this elevates, or it shows the gap that we have between what the church should be doing, or education, or just a mental maturity within our communities. And you know, and I'm saying this, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone, because I have seen people with doctorates and intelligent people actually being gripped by some of these mushrooming doctrines. And you ask yourself that, how did you get to a space where you are a learned person and you're jumping in church saying, I see the millions, I see the millions, you know? And you realize that there's a vulnerability in the way that we think. Whether I would put it down to the doctrine itself, I wouldn't necessarily do that, because most people don't study the doctrine. And I believe there's a sister that spoke before that touched on the fact that people do not read the so-called Bible. They more or less go for the things that are power-based or miracle-based. And you know, and I feel like
Thank you very
when
much.
we look, sorry, Dr. David, should I continue?
Thank you very much. I think you come back on the space. And do you hear me, people? You hear me?
Yeah, please continue.
You have dropped. Put up, request the microphone again, Hustler. The Hustler from Nairobi. AM Maboko from Zimbabwe. We invite you again to speak because you dropped out. As we arrange the next speaker, we have sent you the mic. You can come up and finish up your points. The next speaker is Emeka from Nigeria. I believe so. Emeka, wherever you come from, either Burundi, Rwanda. Thank you, my brother.
Yes, your phonetics is so right. Emeka is the name. Thank you, my African brothers. I have so many cases to place before us, and whatever it is, churches or mosques, I think the blame should go to ourselves, our African people, who received everything from the colonial terrorists, hook, line, and sinker. But I will start by reading a letter written by King Leopold II of Belgium. King Leopold, they call him, to colonial missionaries, the year 1883. The letter goes like this. Reverend fathers, dear compatriots, the task that is given to fulfill is very delicate and require much tact. You will go certainly to evangelize, but your evangelism must inspire above all Belgium interest. Your principal objective in our mission in the Congo is never to teach the niggers to know God. This they know already. They speak and submit to a Mungu, one Nzambi, one Nzakoma, and what else I don't know. They know that to kill, to sleep with someone else's wife, to lie and to insult is bad. Have courage to admit it. You are not going to teach them what they know already. Your essential role is to facilitate the tasks of administration and industries, which means you will go to interpret the gospel in a way it will be the best to protect your interest in that part of the world. For those things you have to know. For these things you have to keep watch on. Disinteresting our savages.
I think there's a network connection there.
Am I coming out clear?
We lost you. We lost you a bit, but we can hear you.
Okay. I beg your pardon about that.
The next speaker is Pata FM MB Boko. Prepare to finish up your sentence. Mr. Emek, summarize that and then we bring you back again. Your network was not very good.
Thank you very much, Dr. David, for giving me the chance. What a beautiful sharing I'm hearing here. And thank you to the host and co-host. My sister was well articulating, we are, as Africans, we are in deep, deep trouble. And religion and churches are at the core of perpetuating our suffering and continued manipulation of Africans by the Westerners. But the religion is at the center of this problem. And I feel when you look into our past, we were people, a proud people, a hardworking people, a people that was confident in their own identity. Now it's all gone. Religion has come to attack us left, right, and center, and to a point where they have made us to be. They've made us to hope for a pie in the sky, and I think it's time that we realize that it is through us and by us and among us that Africa can be lifted. Hard work is all it takes. No amount of miracle will replace the hard work that needs to be done so Africa can rise again. I rest my case, and my case is simply to say religion, mosques are the reason why Africa is suffering. Thank you very much.
I believe, brother, you are from Zimbabwe, and thank you very much for being very straight to the point. You are from Zimbabwe, I believe so. Pata, are you from Zimbabwe? Pata?
Yes, please. Yes, please. I'm
you are
from
Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Yes, you know.
Yes, Dr. David.
I want you to give, before you go, I want you to tell us the type of pastors, bishops that you have, because most of them have to predict elections. Some of them have come from Zimbabwe. There was another bishop who came to predict that so yeah, 2 years so and so. The level of education, when Songa raised this point, and M.A. Boko has raised point, keynote the also contributing. How come the literacy rate is about 95%? People have not church told to go and serve today. Despite difficulties, there is nobody who has built a mortuary in his own compound. And that, you know, there are good houses in Borodale, good houses in all these places in Zimbabwe. But there is nobody who has built a mortuary inside. Why do you build a mortuary in your compound? Whom are you preparing to kill? You know, the something has struck me that the man built a mortuary. It was inside his compound. So was he prepared? In international law or any law, criminal law, common law, we go back to look if a judge is going to sentence. He would like to ask himself and remove a doubt. Why should a normal man with a very big house, bigger than the state house, build a mortuary in his compound? Which was not. How did he end building a mortuary? Nobody. Who gave him the license to build a mortuary? Because a mortuary means you have to get refrigerated items where you keep the dead bodies. You have to get a lot of things. It is something to do with criminality. So what happens in Zimbabwe? You have never had this type of count. People burning themselves in a house like our place in Uganda, 1,000. And 1,000. We have here pastors being guarded by the most sophisticated weapons. And some of the pastors are very beautiful. And me, I thought they were guarding themselves from beauty. Right. Maybe people could say, hello, if the pastors come to church, they want to try, such a church can cause trouble. You might, this is not what you. We have a pastor, we have a bishop. The bishop, we have a bigger convoy than a presidential convoy. Cars, the whole 50. Now, these are some of the things. Like today, I had over video with my church. They have installed a prayer because of those conditions of COVID. Now we've decided to buy a video, a Zoom that church members, some of them come to church, like us senior people of assistant warden. The money that we collected in that church today, we had collected about 1 ton of food stuff, clothing, which is we have donated, is going to Ukraine. And the whole audience was, oh my God, each one came with something. Those who have clothes, they brought, and this church, 1 ton plus 1,750 pounds of church money collected from willing people. They don't force you, even if you don't have. But in our churches in Africa, when the man with the basket arrives your presence, he stands there or she stands there, even it tells you, pull the pocket. So what is your experience in Zimbabwe before you land the mic?
Thank you very much, Dr. David. You are absolutely right in what you are, in your analysis and what you have said. But I will put it this way. That's my personal perspective. In my view, I think the churches have to be regulated, and there has to be a serious criteria to make sure that the first thing that we must establish as Africans is to unite African people around our Africanness. And it is our culture, it is our identity that is being attacked and has been attacked. And I think for us to be able to uplift ourselves, we need to anchor ourselves within our own culture, within our own identity as Africans. And in my humble opinion, I feel a lot of these churches, I think the moment they must be regulated so that we maintain our identity, we maintain our culture, we maintain, and anyone who has to practice to be, let's say, a pastor, is to abide by certain core principles that all uphold as Africans. That's my personal opinion. A lot of these churches, in my view, they must just be banned or closed down. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is an experience from a gentleman from Zimbabwe. Thank you, family Pata, Patave FM. Thank you very much. Tatenda. Thank you. Mr. Lukwago, before I bring in Madam, don't worry, Mabok, you'll be the one closing our session. I can see my brother from Biafra here. I will give you a chance. And Emeka, summarize that letter. Don't read us the letter. We have read it already. You sent me the letter and I read it. Summarize what was the king saying, what was the message. I will bring you in and have 2 minutes. We are about to close. But let me hear from this man from Uganda, the uncle of Mr. Wandera's uncle.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, but increase the volume.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much, Dr. David Masanga and the co-host, Miss Ogutu. Actually, Dr. Africans, let us eliminate colonial influences from our societies. Okay? We need our indigenous sovereignty right now. For me, I had to do away with religion. Actually, upon watching Dr. Anas Kalisa as he dissected how I was a Muslim, those sheikhs from Saudi Arabia were sponsoring the killing of people in Yemen. I said, how could the custodians of Islam be involved in such killings? I completely did away with religion. And by the mere fact that I joined the Pan-African movement. Pan-Africanism is all about studying our culture, values, norms, and African history. So, we happened to realize that religion, these religions we are following, per se Christianity, Islam, what and what, are not part of our cultural settings and norms. Okay? Doctor, in Africa, religion takes center stage ahead of development and the other technological advancements. Okay? We would be investing more in technology. African leaders for the betterment of for the betterment of we, the people you lead. Okay? But they have deliberately failed to transform the people they are leading. And now we are bleeding in open day poverty. And many of us think that by going to religion is where we shall get comfort and consolation. No, that is a lie. Doctor, the colonialists denied us top education. We are still stuck with the colonial education. Okay? That is producing actually job seekers, but not job creators. We focus more on theory. In Europe, it is not. In those Western countries, it's where actually Christianity is more. But why are they not more on relying more on religion? So, this was a deliberate effort by the colonialists to deny us a chance of developing our own societies by hoodwinking us with religion as a weapon of massive destruction. Okay? Dr. Africans, as by the colonialists' religion, taught us to disregard our own traditional beliefs in favor of their religions. Okay? We were made to believe that our ancestral spirits are evil. Okay? That they are demonic. And they represent everything bad to do with the society. You get that? But previously, people could enjoy their own religions here in Africa. You happen to see someone actually practicing his cultural norms or traditional religion, they will call him a witch. That so and so is involved in witchcraft activities. No. Stop that. Stop that. We must go back to the drawing table and focus on our own. Okay? Doctor, the effects of colonialism are so massive and continue being watered down from generation to generation for as long as we still have puppet leaders. Okay? Because that of erasing our identity. People to be meant to focus more on foreign cultures has destroyed the African son and daughter. My appeal to Africans, you wake up. We still have that chance to rebuild our what? Societies. Okay? Doctor, now look at Nigeria. Nigeria, where there are many churches and mosques. You happen to realize that even the state is involved. They say that Nigerian government funds spends more money, taxpayers' money, on funding Muslims to go to Saudi Arabia to make a hijjah. But what is the welfare of the people? Government, before you focus on funding pilgrimages, it's in Nigeria where there are many churches, pastors with big churches hosting over 100,000 people. Okay? Come here to my country. Yes? Doctor, come here to my country, Uganda. There is a prophet called Prophet Mbonye. Yes, doctor.
The microphone, there's some network. Lukwago,
Okay,
do you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. I think it's doctor's network that has a problem.
Okay. So I was stating that you come to Uganda. Okay. There are pastors. The state has okayed them to have many media platforms, radio stations, televisions, but they are not impactful to society. They create no impact, but they have been created in a way of extorting money from their followers. They come up with mobile phone numbers that you send here money. If you want to get rid of poverty, you send here a tenth of your earnings to the church so that a pastor or a bishop can pray for you. So for as long as these churches are focusing on luring people into their traps, the state cares less. Okay? Now there is a man claiming to be a prophet, Prophet Kakande. He has invested more in agriculture, bakery. He comes up to his followers selling rice, considering it has holy rice. And it is so expensive to buy a kilo of rice from Kakande's church, tantamounting to 50 Ugandan shillings. There is holy bread, holy bread, where a piece costs 50,000 Ugandan shillings. Imagine. Okay? And you happen to realize that those pastors are conniving with government officials. They are well protected with AK-47. But these are the people who claim that it's God who protects us. It's God who protects us. Okay? There is one, the city pastor called Bujingu. Bujingu. Now he's teaching against some of the norms of Christianity because they are together with the state. So, Africans, let us wake up. Let us go to the growing table and focus on our traditional religion. This imported religion has rendered us useless before, or slaves of the white men. We have our own cultures. But why are we going away from them? Simply because we have been denied education. Let us wake up. We still have time to fix that. The moment we shall resort to our own culture is when we shall develop like China. I have my Indian friends whom I work with along the streets of Kampala. I always find them concentrating on their own cultural traditions, the Chinese, the Indians. But you find an African attacking you if you happen to practice your own, that you were witchcraft. That must stop. Okay? That must stop. Why are they making us feel alienated with our own cultural norms?
Thank you very much. Today, Mr. Lukwago, I give you 100 marks. You have come up with something very interesting. You mean these things are in Uganda happening? Lukwago, let me ask you this question, Lukwago. For real, this thing, Anita from Uganda is here. Where has she gone again? Anita, I brought you up to tell us, is this so bad in Uganda to this level? Or some of us are not in Uganda, but you have shocked me today that they have advertised. Someone advertises for healing. Anita, come up and tell us more
Actually,
about
even
this.
doctor, there was a time they were even buying machines that they would electrify you with so that you can shake. That's they were trying to make a miracles. You know, in Uganda, if you happen to make a miracles, you can set up a church. If you happen to have the capability to forward tell, you can come up with a church. That must stop, doctor. You ask them, how did you end up coming up with a church that I was possessed with the Holy Spirit? Please, education must come first. Thank you so much, doctor.
Okay, Wamugunda, before I bring in Wamugunda and then come back to Anita. Anita, Wamugunda, let Anita, ladies first. Anita, is this really happening in that country, in your place? Anita, you have a microphone, please. Miriam, is Anita listening to us?
And maybe she's having problems with her network.
It looks like.
I think she can go out and come back again.
Yeah, Anita, go back and then come back. Go out and come back.
Leave the space and then rejoin again, please, Anita.
Sorry.
All right, so who was to come after her?
Wamugunda.
Okay.
Dr. Mazanga, I'm calling Mungadi. Mungadi, you are somebody from the East, you must know that name. You're calling me funny name. I'm Mungadi. So, Doctor, I am from Tororo, Busia. I'm a Samia. I want to put that clear. Then number two, Doctor, you know St. Peter's College, Tororo. That's where some of us went to. That's a Catholic founded.
Can I tell you,
school.
You are from St. Peter's College, Tororo. I am from Manjasi High School. We never liked each other.
Now we are going to speak. Now we are going to speak.
Because you never liked, when were you in St. Peter's College?
82 up to 88.
I was in Manjasi High School in 1971.
So, I was there, by then I was in P1.
Yes, so you can see we have got that rivalry between me and that college, St. Peter's College. We never worked together. Again, the problem that brought it up is religion again. You hear that? We used to fight. We used to fight in Tororo. We used to fight on Saturday. Police had to come in to wear us and the army.
we shall fight later. You'll make me lose my point.
Go ahead, please.
I wanted to say this. Doctor, I left Uganda in 2016 to the United States. But doctor, this is me without bias, without Africanism, without nationalism, without what. If you have been praying in Uganda and you are living in hell like me, when you come to the United States, you might think you have reached heaven. But then, what's the point I want to make here, doctor? The hospital where I'm working is a Catholic health initiative. It has Master College of Health Sciences. It has an inn as a restaurant or a hotel, or a five-star hotel. And then it has the hospital where it's rated among the top 50 hospitals in the United States. Besides, it's a hospital run by nuns. If you came to Iowa where I am, you get nuns from Kenya working in this hospital. Doctor, I'm raising this point because I've seen Kazimba, the Archbishop of Uganda, saying, you the sheep, the flock cannot be driving four-wheel drives and you expect us, the bishops, to be ushering you to God when we are walking on foot. I am having a problem with the churches in Uganda. Doctor, I am not lying. If you came to the United States, where I am, you will believe there is God. You will believe God answers the prayers of these people. Doctor, when I arrived here, I fathered a child. I took this child to the Catholic school, and the government of the United States offers this child a scholarship, irrespective of what they call zip code, because the child is in school, and it's the duty of the church to seek for scholarship for my child. Doctor, there is something that has fundamentally gone wrong in the churches in Africa, or in East Africa, I would say so. Yesterday I made a comment that it's good to have people dying like in Kenya, and then the government will be aware that the church is doing something destructive. In Uganda, the current crop of churches, or the Pentecostal churches, have simply killed the brains. The Pentecostal churches have just simply killed the sheep. Dr. St. Peter's College produced Kibaki. Mention the schools that were church found, the original churches. I don't want to be bad and say the influence was bad. Some of the influence of churches, Dr. Mazanga, if you went to mind us, it was a church that is a Protestant founded church. Now we are having an issue of new churches.
True. That is true.
New churches. Doctor, I am a Protestant who has studied in St. Peter's College, Tororo, and St. Peter's College is a Catholic. It is a missionary. They call them Mill Hill Fathers. Were the one who founded that church, that school, St. Peter's College, Tororo. I am now here in the Master One Hospital. It's a Catholic hospital, and I'm working as a Protestant. I'm working in this hospital. So the churches, maybe if it is to regulate, we have to go down and ask the new churches, what do you bring to Africa? St. Peter's College was a missionary hospital, school, and you want to mention people from St. Peter's College, you can mention, them, doctors, since you are from the East. So the influence of churches, modern day churches, is destructive, but the influence of the original churches that some of us are proud of, like I'm proud of St. Peter's College, Tororo, a Catholic missionary church, and yet I'm a Protestant. It brought me up. So there are issues that need to be questioned, especially on the new churches that come in. Even when we're talking about homosexuality, it's associated with the current day churches. Although we understood it as an abnormality, then as cultures and what have you, but even the churches then made it know. But right now it is spreading like a bushfire, but it's highly associated with the churches. Doctor, I had only 15 minutes of break, so my break is over, but that is my small contribution to the churches. There's something fundamentally wrong.
From Busia.
Thank you.
And I don't know how fast you fathered a child from 2016. How old is the child? It's now 7 years?
Yes.
Yeah, you must be a very, very tough, sharp shooter. Thank you very much. In the United States, continue with the good work you are doing, Doctor. Thank you. God bless you. Always look up to this program. Tag each other. Tag my host. Tag every. Tag Wandera from your own county. Obusia across in Kenya. I can see Mr. Kakwenza here who struggled with some dictatorship back home. And I'm happy. Kakwenza, at times, now you remember some of the words that I used to, you grew up hearing me being called names. And I'm happy to hear that you are also being called names. I'm not happy to hear the treatment you went through. But my brother Kakwenza, this is how life is. I told you. That's what some of us have feared, even to talk about certain things from 1982. We have battled the same system that actually made you, almost killed you. So I am happy you are here as a comrade from Uganda. I have not tried to make life very difficult for you, because I know what it means to be in exile, because I've been in exile for 38 years now. I know how it pains, how you lose a nationality, how you become stateless. I understand all this, but God will guide you. Don't give up. Continue writing, continue giving the correct criticism. Don't give up. As much as we know that same God, not these current things of Kakande, Nini, all these things here. Lukwago has made me even hate the whole thing altogether. You know, if that there is rice, which is holy rice, just say you are trading your commodities. Rice cannot be holy. You know, you have grown it in Uganda food soil. I don't know. But thank you very much, Kakwenza, for what you went through. But this is what some of us have gone through since 1982, when we battled the same system that today turned on its own children, and it continues eating them. And I told you, for me, I'll stay where I am until there are serious changes that we can see. But I don't see the changes. We seem to be transmitting from one transformer standby generators to operational generators. So I don't know. It is up to you. It's a thing for another day. But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I can see Anita is back now. Anita, you can add to what? Then we go to Mr. Africa Hustler. You have come in another name again. Then we go to Mr. Emeka. I hope you paraphrased your letter. Then we go. Meanwhile, my people at Nairobi studios, you can go. You can go home. I will handle this. Stephen, you wait. And we, first of all, to bring about some questions. We now want solutions. What do you want the government to do? What do you want us
Thank
to
you,
do?
Dr. Matsa.
Thank you very much. Anita.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Matsang. I have been following, and a lot of concerns have been raised. First of all, I would like us to agree that we all subscribe to something. It may not be probably Anglican or, but we all subscribe to a higher being or a higher power, however much it may not be the same. So I think that the problem that comes in with religion in Africa is that in most instances, it's cults that come up and we refer to them as churches, or
Sorry
Yes,
about that.
I was saying, yes.
Go on, go ahead.
Yes, we have a problem that we do not notice when we actually have cults that are coming up with their own way of doing things, and we end up referring to these cults as churches. And it's not only in Africa that we have had cults come up and do a lot of funny things, because I have been following the whole thing that has been happening in Kenya about these people that were killed, that were starved and then buried and all that. Surely, and if we are to look closer at this, we cannot say really that this is this is Christianity, because that is what was being brought out, that this was a preacher. This, you can really see that this is a cult thing. It is a cult because there is nowhere it is stated in the Bible that people should be starved to death and then buried and the rest continue doing the same thing. So and these cults have been there. They have been there, just that in Africa it's becoming more intense right now, and it's being exposed. So the fact that it's being exposed, we think that these things have not happened elsewhere, but when you try to follow documentaries, it has also happened out there in the Western world. You see cults where the leader decided to sleep with all the people in the church. I've watched a lot of documentaries of cults, and the difference is that for the Western world, they won't call these churches, they'll call it a cult. And then this side, we call it a church. Because we have had churches here in Africa that have come up and they have done great things. We have had great leaders come out of church schools, and these are sensible and reliable leaders. So at one point, in whatever spiritual realm you are affiliated to, I just think there is when a new group of people or a person decides to come up with an idea with their wrong intentions, and then they follow something that is completely different from what others think or view, but they try to make it resemble the other, and then the misunderstanding comes in. Because people keep saying that there are sacrifices that are being made, that there is a speaker who said that they prefer the African setting and the way the worship was done. And even it had its own problems, because we cannot deny the fact that there were a lot of human sacrifices, and there are a lot of human sacrifices still going on with the African way of belief. We cannot deny that. There is a time in Uganda it had become a problem, and everyone was scared. Everyone was scared to leave their child to move. Everyone was scared to move at night. So everything that we subscribe to, if it is not followed in the proper way that it is supposed, those funny circumstances coming up. And the speaker, I think the first speaker, he was like, people are going to these wrong places that they refer to as church because they are desperate. And it's true. People are desperate. Our economy is not okay. People are jobless. People have nothing to eat. People have nowhere to sleep. So if they find someone who is claiming to be a savior, someone who is claiming that if you come here, you'll get this result, then they will go there, because that is what the economy dictates. You want to get out of the harsh condition, you're not going to be able to get out of it in an ordinary way, but I'm providing a solution that is very fast and that will make you get better than what you expected. So at the end of the day, even if this
So Anita, let me ask you, Bishop Kakande, does he give solutions, or when it's Bishop Kakande in Kampala? Because Lukwago said Bishop Kakande has advertised. Some of them have media adverts. Actually, to be very honest, they have more airtime than even normal teachings that you want to hear. Every radio station, TV you open up has got Christian songs, people dancing, people singing, which is, why are we, that's the question which, Anita, why are we more to this? That why don't we put for every church,
whether you're getting me, because yes, Dr. Matsang, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead. I cannot hear you. Okay. Anita, you come down, then you can come back. I will give you time to finish. Let me come back to Ma Bakoko from Zimbabwe. Finish your point you didn't finish. Then we go to Samson. Now we are winding up. We're almost coming to the close. Then we come to Samson. You'll be the person to send us home. Bakoko, are you there?
I'm here, Dr. David. Thank you.
Go ahead, my sister from Zimbabwe.
Thank you, sir. I'm not sure where I left off earlier, so I won't touch that one. But if I glean from what the other speakers have raised, I enjoyed a lot when Emeka was reading the colonial letter, because it also spoke to what I was saying, that the church has been instrumental in colonizing our continent historically, and I think that relationship still continues to date, where the church is still used for the wrong thing. However, I do, if I'm to lean more to my own personal experience, I do actually favor the doctrine. I'm not sure why, whether it's because I was raised in a Christian country, but I favor the doctrine. And I say that because even when I look at my other African friends or Zimbabwean friends, and what they believe in, I realize that as a people, we tend to hold on to evidence-based spirituality, meaning that if we believe in it and we see it manifesting, then we hold on to it very closely. And I feel like my study of the Christian doctrine has favored me in that way. There's things that I've read in the Bible that I hold to, and they've worked, and so I feel like when I see how the same doctrine works for me in that way, but it's then manipulated for other people. Examples that you gave earlier, Brother David, that if you're seeing people eating grass and you ask yourself, you're a learned person, you are somebody who is studious, has a doctorate, but now you've been reduced to eating grass. How did you get to that state of I don't know, that state of mind? Dr. David, I don't know if you know that your mic is open. Guys, can you hear me? Should I continue or wait?
Continue.
Thank you, Samson. Yeah, so I feel when we look at how the church is. Okay, so yeah, so when I look at how the church is to date, and like I said earlier, some of the problems that I feel are usually highlighted, it's.
I think we have a problem here. Your network has brought in some complications. I think from where you are, the line is not very clear. So thank you very much. You finished your point. You made your point very clear. We picked some things from you, Ma. I will give you a minute at the end. Let's move on. Lukwago, what is it? What's the problem? Mr. Lukwago, what's the problem? Your hand is up.
Actually, Doctor, I wanted to inform Anita. She rushed to blame cults. I've witnessed our president presiding over many Christian ceremonies at Nambole and many born-again churches, where I always listen to a replay on top radio of Mr. Museveni praising Pastor Jackson Senyonga. But at one time when he paid a church, Pastor Jackson Senyonga of Christian Life Ministry, Pastor Jackson Senyonga told Mr. Museveni that there are many massive graves in churches, in born-again churches within Uganda. Okay? Doctor, you may set up your team to investigate whether what I'm talking about is true. But ever since Pastor Jackson Senyonga told that, Mr. Museveni, I don't know how far he has gone with handling that. So before we blame cults within Africa or Uganda and East Africa at large, did the president take time to investigate the massive graves Pastor Jackson Senyonga talked about within born-again churches in Uganda? Okay? Because we are seeing
you mean
massive graves. Yes, he made it clear to him. And ever since then, Mr. Museveni has never gone back to his church. Okay? Because why are the states silent on such things, killings going on? Now somebody talked of missing organs. In those people, the victims of that Shakahora massacre. Are churches being turned into organ harvesting centers? Because we are hearing of women organ trafficking as a very profitable business. And a senior pastor confessed before the president that there are massive graves in churches. Is that their source of income? Thank you so much, Dr. David Masang.
Right? What? Today this is hot. Samson. Then I come to Zele. Then Emeka, the letter writer. Let me listen to Samson who has not spoken. Then come to Zele, my sister Zele. Then Emeka. Then I bring down the curtain. Yes, Samson. Are you are Ugandan? Are you like me?
Yes, Dr. Masanga. Except
are you not shocked about the revelation that there are churches that we might have dead bodies in churches?
It's very shocking. It's very shocking.
I'm shocked. I don't know, but I hope officials in Uganda. I think Lukwago, you have opened a lot of eyes. Some of us will do their ways of finding out, but really, given the situation that people preach, the type of preaching, I'm not shocked. Because if you tell a lady to unaddress herself in front of the congregants, what else can you not do? Sure. If you have a pastor, a bishop, drinking with you in a nightclub, dancing, that's okay. Because Catholic bishops drink alcohol. But you have a pastor dancing music up to morning with you buying, dancing with several partners in the club then he's coming to preach to you in the morning. Are these the churches we want on African continent? Samson.
Thank you so much, Dr. Masanga, and your co-host. Mine will be a very short comment because I'm from Uganda, but I've not lived in Uganda for quite some time. So I don't know the effect of the churches yet, how far it has gone currently. But I would say, taking from what the speakers have said, I wish we could turn the tide round. Instead of having, as what you said through your question, instead of having more churches and mosques in Africa, I wish we could have more small-scale industries, more small-scale places whereby people can learn how to do some small, like vocational centers instead of churches. Although, coincidentally, churches have been something that have helped out in a certain way, which I may say might help Africans with what is happening right now on the international stage. Because much as
Samson, which type of churches? The old churches or the new evangelical churches?
it seems like the evangelical churches are so different from the original churches. And some of them are like business centers. Some people put up these churches typically for business. But the original churches were somehow fundamental in bringing up the African society in a more a family nature, whereby people were supposed to follow the church to the letter, and they bring children. And with what is happening right now in the world, sometimes, much as we may hate the churches, sometimes it might be something that might be healing the people from what will happen in other places where there are no churches. Because right now, much as we say we don't want the churches, and we are having to choose between having no church and or having no job, at times the churches have worked like therapy to some of the people that are attending these churches. But looking at it economically, it's not viable to have churches and mosques instead of having small-scale industries. While in Asia, people are learning coding, our young children are being taught about the world that will come after we are dead. So we are like burying ourselves while we are still alive. We teach our children that the only way forward is to be religious. But at the same time, looking at it in two ways, Africa has had to choose between a very hard choice. Because while we don't have enough people to go and help out as way of industries, we at the same time don't have people to give us direction in how to handle issues like unemployment. So these preachers have come in as people who are helping people to numb their frustrations, but at the same time, they're ending up taking advantage of the same people. So my comment would be, it would be much better to have industries than the churches. But what is happening right now, without industries and with unemployment, if there are no churches to just give some sort of therapy to the people, it will end up with something different. Because right now, the West is...
Therapy. What type of therapy are you talking about? Because the therapy has ended up taking people home. What type of therapy? Samson, are you suggesting serious therapy? Because you have seen some churches have got even mortuary. You yourself, you are very well learned guy. If you hear that a church, inside the church compound, there is a mortuary, what comes in your mind?
I know it's bad. Right now, I can't really, I'm not really against the idea that these churches are bad. But what is happening right now is the countries don't have employment. There are no industries. And imagine if there are no churches. I'm not saying it is a correct method, but it's the only available method where people don't have anything to do. There are no choices. Either some people, if it was here, most of those people would be committing suicide. In the Western world, people are taking to drugs, opioids, because they don't trust the churches. They no longer go to churches. Now there are zombie houses everywhere in the Western world, especially in the United States. Most are full of people taking drugs, the opioid, because they don't go to church and they have nothing to do. They have no employment.
Dr. Masanga, your microphone is making noise. Dr. Masanga.
We have had a problem with our network today. So whoever is coming in, speak as quickly as possible.
No, it's your microphone. If you can mute your microphone.
Radio in Africa, in Nairobi, can you support the system there? Samson, I will bring you back. It is becoming a very interesting topic, and maybe the Almighty God is also coming down to talk to us. Mali Lumumba from Kampala and Africa Hasura. Why are you
Yes.
running away? Let me take Lumumba. Hold on. Africa Hasura from Kenya. I want to hear more from you. Tell us what you know, Hasura from Kenya. Mr. Hasura, your hand is up. Your microphone I've given you now. Okay, Mr. Mali Lumumba from...
Okay, this is Emeka. You called me, right?
Okay, Emeka, speak
What
now.
what I wanted to achieve by reading that letter, because sometimes I ask myself so many questions. But good a thing that everybody has that same letter. I ask myself, whatever you don't know becomes secrets to you. But anything you know, you work according to the information. What is wrong with Africans? And I asked this big question, why did Africans got sued for independence at the first place? Why did Africa sued to leave, to allow the colonial masters go at the first place? If I don't know anyone, I know what happened in South Africa. Every musician in Nigeria was singing about apartheid. I listened to Afan Bilondi in Jamaica. They sang about apartheid. So many of them sang about apartheid. They say it's not good. And we fought. The likes of Babangida, Abacha, they fought till 94. And surprisingly, we are seeing the footstools of the colonial masters. We don't want them. We wanted to be free. And here we are, we are free, but we don't want to leave them go. We don't want to let them go. The churches have interfered into our private life. I will speak because I am from the old eastern region of Nigeria, which is today known as Biafra. We have our way of life before the advent of the colonial bandits, I will call them, because they only come to terrorize us. And
thank you very much. Mali Lumumba.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Masanga, for hosting this space. I'm hoping that I'm audible enough to everybody. Can somebody please confirm? Am I audible enough?
Yes, you are.
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, my angle.
There are people, just hold on first. There
Uh,
are people on the platform who have got their Bluetooth on. Bluetooth, when you have Bluetooth, it interferes with everybody talking. Please switch off your Bluetooth when you are on Twitter handle all the time, please. Go ahead, Mali Lumumba.
okay. All right. Thank you. So I wanted to say that this issue of religion is a very, very a multifaceted and a very complex one. We in Africa, obviously, we know that religion was used to colonize us. This is the reason that we're in this state that we're in. The reason that we have a country called Uganda or Kenya or Zimbabwe, it is because of the Christian religion. The first tool that they used in Uganda, in the case of Uganda in the 1880s, the late 1880s, was when the king at the time, so the largest kingdom in Eastern Africa is the Buganda kingdom, and the king at the time, the Kabaka, sent for the missionaries from England, and when they were trying to stop the Arab spread from the north down into the interior of Uganda. And it was that religion, by the establishing of the Anglican Church and later the White Fathers who came from France, that was used in the eventual toppling of our civilizations, of our ways of life, and leading us to where we are in calling ourselves Ugandans or calling ourselves Kenyans or whatever the case may be. So you fast forward to 2023. A place like Kenya, where these people are getting killed, it is not a thing that is so far-fetched, because the beginnings of this religion in Africa were in blood. It was through colonization, it was through the enslavement of our ancestors, and it was through the deposement of our traditional political organized systems, and the breaking apart and the demonization of our spiritual systems. So you find Africans now calling themselves Anglicans, you find Africans calling themselves Catholics, you find Africans calling themselves Lutherans, when even the white people themselves are not silly enough. If you find a British, he's not going to call himself a Roman Catholic. They took the religion and remixed it for themselves, and they call it the Anglican. They call themselves Anglicans. Then you find the Scottish were not getting along with the British. They took the religion, remixed it for themselves, called themselves Presbyterians. The Germans call themselves Lutherans. The Americans call themselves evangelicals or Baptists. But it is only Africa where you find we are the ones who just take wholesale from the other people without even looking at it and trying to adapt it to our own environment that we live in. So you put that aside, and you notice all these what do they call them? Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Islam, and whatnot. Wherever they touch down in the world, slavery is not far behind them. When Islam touched down in Africa, you saw slavery came. Christianity touches down in Africa, you saw slavery and colonization comes. I don't know why we don't follow the template that the Japanese used, because the Japanese were brought this same Christianity in the 1500s, way even before we had it. But if for some reason they seem to have been a little bit more astute, because when they brought it to Japan, the Japanese observed it, and they saw that in the 50 years, because they were born in the mid 1500s, by about the early 1600s, the Japanese had completely banned it. The shoguns in Japan banned it for 250 years, and they realized that this religion is just nothing but a political tool that is being used to subvert their society. And it was not until the late 1800s that they had to basically allow Christianity to come back. But by that time, the damage had already been done. And if you go to a country like Japan, now that thing it's basically on the fringe. You can never find a Japanese Christian because they know it is just a bunch of colonial vestiges, or aggressive colonial region, which is what they call it, and they have a term for it, it's called Jankyo in Japan, which just means that it is a colonial religion. So I think in Africa, we are just fooling ourselves. There's nobody we are fooling, There's nobody who respects us because we are Christians. There's nobody who respects the Chinese because they respect you because of what you can do for the next person. And in Africa, we are running around deceiving ourselves with this religion. And every single time we get a rude awakening, like just what has happened in Kenya now, that the religion is not compatible with our African ways of living. Africa has always been a plural place whereby people were free to be who they wanted to be. There are so many spiritual systems, so many languages. And I'll just leave it at this, that plurality, that difference is what makes us African. But this religion comes and starts preaching that there's one God for everybody, and there's nothing in nature that is singular. Even within species, even you see within the human species, there's a variety of people. No two human fingerprints look the same. And this was a concept that was very well known to our ancestors in Africa. But these people come, the Islamists and the Christians come and start telling us that there's one God for everybody. And there's no evidence for that. And that idea is what breeds, that singularity is what breeds intolerance, is what breeds racism, and is what breeds colonization. Because that white man's burden that they came with to civilize others was the idea that these savages need to believe like we do because they were getting their backing from a higher spiritual being. So at the end of the day, it is only us as Africans who are fooling ourselves. Nobody's buying it when we're running around trying to pretend that we are the most holy people praying on December 31st, but you cannot feed yourselves, and you're there seeing that a lot of these churches are the ones committing a lot of these criminal misgivings inside of our societies. So I just wanted to say this, and I'll leave it here. At the end of the day, Christianity has done nothing but has contributed to the demise and the continual, disenfranchisement and destruction of Africa and her people. And I hope that one day we will start having this conversation whereby we start figuring out how we are going to remove this thing from our societies so that we can move forward with a clear head and stop having these external influences from the white supremacists and the Arab supremacists coming into our society and dismantling and destroying what we have going for ourselves. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you, Dr. Masanga.
Is someone speaking? I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I cannot hear anything either.
Yeah, are you, Pata? Who is? We are on. Are you hearing me now?
Yes,
you hear
yes,
me,
sir.
people?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I can hear you.
Yes. I had said, Africa, you slept. Samson, you didn't finish now. Then I come to Zeli. Then I come to Africa, call you again. Then that's it. Samson.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Masanga. I think I'll finish my submission with the idea that Africa has more churches and mosques because our leaders want them to be there. The person who spoke most about this was Lukwago, and he mentioned a few things that interlace with why there are more churches and mosques. Somebody talked about going to Ethiopia and finding mosques following each other in one area, because originally mosques and churches these churches were forerunners of the imperialists. They brought the imperialists closer to the people. If there are more people believing in churches and going to mosques, then our leaders can be free to govern, because our leaders have created a vacuum. If these people who are leading had put efforts in having industries in our countries, then there would be no time for people to be moving to churches. Most of these developed countries have people working 24/7. Like I think there is a doctor.
gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I think with the network we have, we can't go further than that. Our network is not good. The lines have been interfered with. So until tomorrow, where we shall have another topic, I want to thank you so much and send you this number. Ladies and gentlemen, our lines seem to have difficulties because every speaker I'm bringing in seem to be either people don't want us to speak about these churches, or the Holy Spirit is coming down through them. So I think we have heard the gist of the matter. We all agree that there are more churches and mosques in Africa than industries and factories. We all agree that our children are unemployed. The youth, the younger generation, 80% or 60% of the population is youth, which is unemployed. And they are easily recruited into these churches. We therefore call upon the government and the governments across African continent, on the continent, to find ways to harmonize the relationship between the churches and the people. It looks like if it goes on like this, everybody will not be happy. The churches will be blaming everybody, and everybody will be blaming churches. Let's take the leaf from Rwanda, which has actually limited that if you want to have a church in Rwanda, you must have a degree from a recognized university. Because if you have a degree from a recognized university, you will have the tools of analysis to be able to interpret the Bible so that you don't take us to a very bad area where you have a mortuary in your and undertaker systems, undertaker methods within your compound. Why do you create a mortuary if you have no intention of killing the people coming to visit you in your house? Why? Why? That question opened up my mind in so many ways. And that, believe me or not, it is going to be the anchor question that the lawyers in this country will ask. Why did the people have a mortuary inside the compound of a church? What was the motive of having a mortuary to undertake bodies, people dying? Why? Why? Other than that, religion is a very good thing. Other than that, good religion in good traditional churches and good Islam in traditional mosques, not mosques that go to recruit younger people, indoctrinate them to go and throw bombs, to go and die as suicide bombers. Those are not good churches, mosques. We also have even terrorism coming out in Christian churches, where some Christians are radical. They want to go and finish the other people in the United States. You can see a tit for tat. Muslims, then the Christians are saying, we want these people out because they are the people killing us. These things have happened. You saw when Trump was there was xenophobia around the blacks and the Muslim community. So these are some of the things that the world must cope with. With those few We have been here for 3 hours. It's 6 minutes past 3 here where I am, and 6 minutes past 7 by 7 minutes past 5 in Nairobi, East Africa, and that is just your hours. I want to thank you. I saw the hand of Pata FM. What is what is banning you? I always give.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. David. I just wanted also to say, before we leave, we are here as Africans, and I want to say, we Africans, we are fundamentally spiritual, and we have been manipulated on the basis of our spirituality. We do not need more of these churches, more of these religions, foreign churches to come and tell us about God. We know God, we love God, we are connected to God in everything we do. We are Africans. I would want to quote Robert Mugabe. We are Africans. Whatever is good or bad in our culture, norms and tradition is ours as Africans, and we make no apologies about it. We are work in progress, just like any other peoples of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This man, good man, with glasses like James Bond. What were you saying? Mr. Goodman, I've sent you the microphone. Yes, speak. Goodman, can you speak? You have 1 minute.
Yes, thank you, my brother. I'm even my beloved brother Matsanga. It's been a while. I love you so much. Let me lower this space. I'm in a space already, but this your topic just caught me. I had to just try to come in with this other account. Like my brother just said, Nwanga Abi Patava. Yeah, Patava just said, can you hear me? Is my voice coming out? Hello.
Very clear.
Okay. Like he just said, we knew God before these people brought this religion, this their own way of worship to us. There is this document that leaked out in Africa. Somebody bought